Subsidy is going. Otilo.
Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, President Zibby, and good morning, Lagos.
All right, we're starting off with the punch. Now, just hours after President Tinubu declared an end to the fuel subsidy, the pump price of PMS has skyrocketed, many are now paying up to 600 naira per litre across the country.
I don't know. I'm sure many of you have not even had a moment or sigh of relief given the pandemonium that has built up in the country within the last 24, 48 hours. Ever since, when they say, be careful with your tongue, that it's so powerful. I think we're living in its real, actual life display, whereby one man made one statement: is going, is going, is gone. And then all of a sudden, the whole nation is up in pandemonium. And me and you are on the streets, all of a sudden, back at the queues to buy fuel. Now, just less than 24 hours after the inauguration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared the end of subsidy. Okay, and what that meant was subsidy refers to the difference that the federal government pays on the pump price of a PMS so that we can buy it cheaper, meaning it was subsidized. And he was reading to the extent during his speech that there was no provision for it in the budget. Therefore, the federal government is not paying. Now, even though based on the finance minister's last position that it was meant to terminate in the last day of this month, or I think June,
Next, yeah.
um, many people were not sure as to whether we would continue, whether we would remove it, or we would phase it out. That was left to this administration to do. And this administration has taken the bull by the horns and made the announcement. However, short of the announcement was the procedures for this removal. Hence, what we are seeing currently, which is literally the market reaction. Now, this market reaction, honestly, as you know, that PMS affects each and every one of us in different ways. Already, transport prices have hiked. They've doubled in some places they have tripled. In major cities like Lagos, Abuja, Ilorin, Benin, Asaba, Port Harcourt, Kano, Makurdi, you would see many of the fuel stations um, uh, with a huge convergence of people with jerry cans and as well as cars. So in some cases, I remember was it on Monday? On Sunday, some people sold, some didn't. I remember I literally bought fuel during the presidential inauguration speech. They were still selling at that point. Immediately he announced it, I literally saw the cars start to converge. Now, what we see here is what the NNPC refers to as panic buying. So the NNPC has made a few statements after that position, because they first of all agreed through the CEO of NNPC Limited. They first of all agreed with the president that um, they were inclined with the move, that the subsidy had been a major impediment to the NNPC operations. Now, remember, Tinubu, I think in his campaign speech and also some of the meetings that he had, I think it's not new. It shouldn't really come as a surprise. He had mentioned that the 6.8 trillion, almost 7 trillion naira challenge had been a great burden. With a 20 trillion naira budget, more than half going to subsidy, which is just basically consumption, an action, a hard decision had to be taken. Now, unfortunately, marketers in their own coin have decided to take advantage and as usual in exploitative ways. So many either stopped selling, or in some cases the NNPC retail stations, they're still selling, but they're selling at a very slow pace. Instead of 6 pumps, some of them are selling at only one pump. You know, prices in some of the IPMAN, that's the independent petroleum marketers stations, are selling, who have the bulk of stations, are selling at 250, in some locations 300. Someone said they bought fuel in Inewi at 600 naira per liter, while some other people in Ndo say they bought at 700 naira. Now the queues are getting larger and larger. Obviously, what that means is both commercial and private car users will suffer the brunt of this. Now, what we're expecting, because it's not just a chaotic situation, I'm not sure that was the president's intention. Now, it's a 1 month until the budget position takes full place. But what we expect in the going days forward, yes, he doesn't have a cabinet now, but that does not mean that the president cannot function. The permanent secretaries of every MDA, that's ministries, departments, and agencies, are fully on ground. So what we expect is a full rollout plan between the president, the presidency, the um, the Nigerian Upstream and Downstream Regulatory Agency, as well as the NNPC Limited. Now, remember the plan, it's not new. The plan before now, that if they remove subsidy, right, what happens is that immediately government does not have to spend on that amount anymore. So government is going to make savings. So first of all, we have to start talking about where is government now going to use this money. That's one. Two, in terms of the retail price out there, under the PIA, what it does is it grants autonomy, or sorry, not autonomy, it democratizes both the selling and importation of fuel. So it shouldn't only be NNPC again that is bringing in PMS into the country. Thirdly, what we also expect is that what do you call it? The same way that we are being hit with the immediate lifting of prices to be at market rate, we also need commensurate, what I call it, palliative or commensurate measures of the savings made back to the Nigerian people. So we're not expecting, okay, pay these high prices now and then wait until the next 6 months before we begin to share whatever was saved from this. No. The same way they have not let us rest, I keep telling you, the same way we're all at the queues, take that pressure to the government and ensure that they come back to you in a manner in terms of either refinery cost, either supporting other refinery operators, either creating maybe better roads or transport systems. Because remember the knock-on effect, the dominant effect, already we're at 23% inflation.
Okay.
With AGO and jet fuel at such prices. Now, adding petrol, you're going to see that inflation literally gulp up the working or the living salaries of many people. What are businesses going to do?
All right, let's go on to the next story. I can see your messages. Please keep them coming. 0809 440 981. And this one comes from Daily Trust. The Industrial Court has upheld the no work, no pay rule by the federal government in the suit that was filed against the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU.
If you ask me, I didn't think there was a reason to actually go to court on this matter, because I think the last time I actually reviewed the Nigerian law, labor law, it was clearly stated there that you only get paid for when you work, for the work you do, the value of the work you do, which means no work, no pay. So, but okay, so granted, somebody has challenged the law as it were, right? And so we have spent some time to go through this. Everybody knows, at least at this table, knows my position with respect to strikes by university teachers. It is not a solution to the problem in that sector. The university lecturers need to be creative with how to engage governments. It's not by fight you win these kind of things, right? Having said that, it's good and it's clear where that now that the legal whatever has been sorted out, and then so we can now go back to what it is. It is, for me, one of those things I also always encourage, that we keep testing our laws, and so that the interpretation of it will help us as we grow, and it will help our laws to mature. So this is one victory for Nigeria in terms of testing our laws, and I hope that everybody would abide by this. And then the choice is now left for every one of us to choose how we want to fight our labor battles, whether we want to go on strike, whether we want to continue to engage our employer, or whether we want to leave the job to look for something better than what we have if we're not satisfied with it. But having said that, I think that the government, having established this fact, um, I would not encourage that they do anything subjudice or prejudice to the law, right? But I know that they should by now be having these meetings with ASU, or ASU should be encouraged to come to the table and look at every item that's been on their demand list since like forever, right? And then let us look at practical ways to solve them, right? We would not continue this system of strike, come back, take a few naira there and here, strike, come back, and then it's distorting and prolonging, it's distorting the lives of our children, and that is something that we don't want.
0809 That is the WhatsApp number. Yinka says, if subsidy is totally removed, how much should PMS be sold? We need to do the math and ensure that petrol stations abide by that. Also, we need to go really hard on the fuel stations that exploit. We've been at this for 16 years, whether to remove or not. So I don't understand the diplomacy or stakeholder engagement some are asking of. Do we need the engagement to keep? Okay, I did get that last line, but I will come back to it, Yinka. This one is Toby from Okorie, and he says subsidy removal is like a father telling his children they should eat once daily instead of 3 times so he can save money and take them to Dubai on vacation. No be who they alive, they go vacation. And let's go on to our next story. This one comes from Punch. Now, the House of Reps ad hoc committee on state of refineries has stated that the federal government from 2010 till now has spent about 11 trillion naira on these moribund refineries.
This is literally one of the most horrendous stories out there. It's more tragic than the killing of people who died under Boko Haram bandits and kidnappers. And why I say this
Is it?
Yes, and why I say this is because you see, sometimes it's only after administration has passed that some of these stories begin to see the light of day, and you begin to see how much and what was not done, which led to the sufferings, deprivation, the 132 million multidimensional poverty. Meaning, multidimensional means you're not just poor in one way, you're poor in 5 different ways. That is, you are cursed. And I say this because it's painful to read this story. Now, this story from the Punch says 11 trillion. Many people, their calculators cannot put 11 trillion on it. That is 1,000 times of a billion in 11 ways. 11 trillion was spent on moribund refineries, not just refineries, moribund, meaning across these 13 years, they were not working. So the refineries were a sinking hole, okay, for the wealth of Nigeria's funding. Now, the House of Representatives ad hoc committee on the state of refineries was said that that the refineries up from 2020 till date, that's about 13-year period, 11 trillion was spent on them. Now, the chairman of the committee, Ganyu Johnson, however, failed to convince the deputy speaker, Ahmed Wase, who chaired the committee of the whole, to consider reports. Wase dismissed the recommendations by the committee as failing to address the main issues for which the panel was set up, as well as not being far-reaching enough to change the current situation of things. What does that mean? What kind of gibberish is that? That there's a sinking hole for our funds across the years, and yet the National Assembly that represents you and I, this is not government anymore. These are the people elected to defend our interests, sat back and what was their summary? That's what, they couldn't do anything about it. Now, in this report, it just literally, we won't go through all the numbers, it just simply breaks down, but the total amount involved, both Naira and foreign exchange, comes up to 11 trillion in 13 years. Now, this was spread across 3 moribund, meaning refineries that were not producing at least half a liter of product, either PMS, AGO, or kerosene. We're here importing, we've not even spoken of what we're importing, the bill for importation, add that to the subsidy. I mean, literally, what kind of nation operates like that? Losing our crude, all in the name of what? Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Warri, money was being spent on them, not even to keep them working, also to rehabilitate them. Yet, we still did not get to a point of production. Even the current refineries, this past administration had a $1.5 billion in motion to bring the Port Harcourt refinery up to speed. And that was given a timeline almost 2 years after the administration. Now, the point is this, right? And this was why when the president mentioned OT law, we were excited because it's about time someone takes the hard decision to begin to cap all these areas of leakage because they're all enmeshed in corruption. They're all enmeshed in a few people benefiting at the expense of 200 million Nigerian masses. Now, the PIA speaks to the liberalization. Liberalization is an opportunity whereby each and every one of us can go into the refinery business. But obviously, if you're an investor, you will not invest when the price is fixed. So that is why even though initially it's going to pinch us with these exploitative tendencies by marketers, now that the subsidy has been removed, refinery investors can begin to look at Nigeria and say, okay, now we can set our own prices. And what happens is that it's demand and supply. Everybody's free. If you sell at 400, I can sell at 300. If everybody comes to my station, my good luck, right? That is what we will arrive at. Two, at the end of the day, this money that government should never be in business. This is why we always say, take government out of business. Look at what they have done. They have spent 11 trillion in 10 years, 3 different governments, 3 different administrations, and achieved less than zero, not even zero, less than zero. Your Commonwealth, my Commonwealth, 11 trillion could have built schools, could have built hospitals, could have paid salaries, could have fixed the roads, could have built more infrastructure. This is the hard facts. So when you're screaming at Tinubu that why did he remove subsidy, remember the 11 trillion.
All right, Lakunle, do you want to add?
Yeah, so quickly, from this report, one part of it that caught my attention is this bit that says that from 2010 to 2019, the committee said that the national refineries were performing suboptimally with an annual combined capacity of less than 30%. Remember that there is a statutorily reserved 400,000 barrels per day of our crude for local consumption. However, the metrics that was set that many years ago, don't let us worry about that now. So let's assume it still stays that 400. That means that our refineries between 2010 and 2019 were refining about 130,000 barrels daily.
Yeah, but they didn't refine.
Hold on. This is what this report says.
No, I know they were used for crude swaps.
So I'm saying, so that 130,000 that they were working on, did we ever report it as part of the fuel or the products we consumed in this country? So you can begin to see how kind of job even the National Assembly does in its investigations. This report, for me, I'll be interested in seeing that report to know where and how that bit, if it is true that they suboptimally operated and they did 130,000 or 400 daily
they didn't
for
do
19 years, for 9 years. If it is true that this statement in this report is correct, I would just like to know where that
it was used for under recovery.
Ended up.
All right, you're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The conversation continues shortly.
It was not used under recovery. That's what they used before now. It is not hidden.
Okay. I need
the one that they use for swap.
That is it now.
No, see, it's like this.
No crude went to those refineries.
Now, hold on. This report, I'm not saying what you are saying is wrong.
Yes.
I'm saying this report says they were operating at 30%, which means that 400,000, whatever,
that's a doctor's figure.
130,000 of it is being refined in Nigeria. Where was it ever reported that okay, we are refining 130,000 today? We have put it here.
That's what I'm saying.
This report will not be complete without breaking down this paragraph.
No, the news is out. It's not hidden. What was meant for Nigeria, because these refineries were not working, they used it to do crude swaps. So they pushed it.
And so it is in order to thought they're using to do swaps.
No, the full amount.
I didn't say. Listen to me very carefully.
I hear you now.
I'm saying that they did not say that it was zero in this thing. They said it was working 30%.
That's 30%.
So if it is working 30%, that means 130,000 of 400 is somewhere.
Yeah. No way. I'm telling you where it went to now.
So they let them write it as the whole 400.
Alrighty, we're going on in 5.
Okay.
So schools.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.10809 4440981. That is the WhatsApp number. Let us know your thoughts. And from Daily Trust, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum says 5,000 teachers will be employed to commence afternoon primary and secondary education systems in the state to address problems of congestion and increase the enrollment of out-of-school children.
Okay, so quickly here, I would say that Professor Babagana Zulum had been one of the poster boy governors in the last 4 years. Everybody is reported him to have done this, done that, been there, been here, and all that. And everything seems to be aligning well for him in terms of his ability to drive the Borno economy and social infrastructure. Remembering that Borno is the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. Right. Having said that, right, so over the last 4 years, there had been reports of schools being built here, there, and Borno ranks, I think, about third or fourth on the table of out-of-school children. So, on the surface of that, this is a good one that they will recruit teachers, they will build more schools, and this is evident in the fact that, okay, so schools that they have today are not enough to accommodate the number of children. So they split them into two groups. One goes in the morning, the other goes in the afternoon. This is particularly not new. It's happened in several places in Nigeria before now. I grew up knowing that this happened even in Oyo State. I remember that there were public schools then. We had people who went for morning lessons between 7:30 and 12, and the afternoon session starts by 12:30 to 4. I remember very clearly that happened in some selected schools, in some selected areas, because of the density and population of children who needed to go to school. So the point then now is that, is it a permanent feature, or that in lieu of building more schools to accommodate the children, this plan has to be well laid out so that people are clear that, okay, so it's temporary and it's going to last for the next 1 year. By the end of 2024, the schools where we'll move people to school normally. Because ask yourself, if the best time to learn actually is in the morning, when you just wake up between the hours of 8 and maybe like 1 o'clock, by the time you go into the afternoon, fatigue is already setting in. So, and then what happens to those children those ones who go to school in the afternoon? Their parents probably engage them in other activities, which makes it more difficult for them to even learn by the time they go to school in the afternoon. So this is for this reason I would say, look, it has to be temporary and has to be very quick, and so that this can achieve one of its set goals of getting the children out of the streets, getting them an education, and having a potential army of potentially employable citizens of Nigeria in the next in another 5-10 years.
All right, what's up? In 2018, this is from Yinka. Kaduna Refinery spends 24 billion naira in direct cost to record zero revenue and an operating loss of 64 billion for 2018, against 2 billion naira revenue and 112 billion naira losses in 2017. More statistics from Worry and Port Harcourt as well. When the federal government wanted to sell off these refineries, the same labor unions they were shouting that they should be carried along during subsidy removal, said no. And this message from Guru, he says, Saudi government is in the business of oil and gas. Why is Nigeria's case different?
So quick yes. one. The one about the one before this last.
Okay, the one from Yinka Bolu, right? Yeah, statistics.
Okay, no, not this. Okay, just go on.
All right. So Tony says, unfortunately, 1 + 1 isn't 2 in Nigeria, especially when it has to do with governments. It will not go down to the demand and supply cost issue, but rather a conspiracy among the players to unleash more sufferings on Nigerians. Deji says the percentage increase from 185 naira per litre to 600 is 224. It's quite high. How much per litre was the government subsidizing? How do we regulate the marketers' free market pricing? There must be some measure of control and sanity. From Vanguard, the Immigration Comptroller General, the acting Immigration Comptroller General, has stated that more passport offices will be opened in Lagos.
Yes, as with every new appointee, a sterling statement has to be made, and we have a new acting comptroller general. Her name is Mrs. Caroline Adepoji. She was saying this in her first top management meeting, saying that she will open more passport offices in Lagos, Lagos being the bulk of the request around the country. And I think they have up.
Is it down to her or to the honorable minister?
No,
Or
no,
to
no.
the president?
That's what you get with the new administration. So the last administration claimed that there was no budget to effect all of this. Well, she has a different point of view. Now, there's what they call these passport offices. I can't remember the name. They have what they call pre-registration offices, whereby you know the process. You fill in your application and then you wait for your date of capture. Now, what they're saying is that they will create offices where people can submit their documentation, so that it's just a case of when you are called to capture, and if possible, that's because the capturing equipment does come in a lot of budget, that they can try and, while they're seeking more budget for the capturing and the booklets, they can have people all queued up. However, she's coming at a time when Nigerian sentiment towards staying in their country is at its lowest. So yes, she's part of the people that will have to deal with the japa or the exodus of Nigerians globally. So the besieging of passport offices nationwide will continue, especially now that you can see subsidy has been removed, and that's not the only subsidy going. We're talking about the FX subsidy going, which will harmonize the exchange rates. So the truth is, until Nigerians begin to see the dividends of all these economic moves, Nigerians will be moving abroad. So not only is subsidy going, Nigerians are going. And it does not mean that Nigerians need to suffer because they want to travel. So how they optimize, or make the passport offices more efficient, both locally and internationally, we're hoping that Caroline Adepoju, in her rights as an empowered woman, will make that difference that many men after before her did not
Amen
do.
to that. That's all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your messages. And of course, special thanks to our analysts as well, Lakunle and Devoe, for joining us this morning. Stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
First bang.
Caroline.
Girl power!
Abi,
I'm sorry, you said something about
The headlines.
no, you can talk now. Why are you hiding?
No. I wanted him to end the live stream.
streaming, so I'm not supposed to. See,